going on. All guests come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Kings legend does have quite a bit of bark at his home, if I'm not mistaken right now. Jerry Reynolds. Jerry, before we get to the game, what's the bark update at your house?
Well, we've got. I think we're up to date. We've got a lot of stacks haven't been opened, and you're wrong. I am not involved in landscaping projects. Mrs. Reynolds is.
Oh, but I thought you had to approve all of the purchases.
I don't approve of squat in this house. I have lost what little masculinity I used to have, and I just do what I'm told, Whitey.
Okay, I got you. But am I at least correct to suggest that you do have quite a bit of bark in around the house these days?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. We have a new edition of bark, which seems to come on a yearly basis. I'm not sure why. But then I'm afraid to ask.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's experience right there.
Yeah.
Jerry, let me start with Domas Sabonis. Do you think there's anything the Kings can try in an effort to get him to become more of an offensive factor tonight?
Well, I would like to see, I don't want to sound like a second guesser because I think Mike Brown has done an unbelievably great job, and credit to Kerr and his staff because they know how important Domas is, and they basically schemed to make it tough for him, which they have. But having said that, I'd like more screen rolls with using him that way as opposed to, as a dribble handoff guy or just getting the ball to high post and looking around trying to find somebody as much because, it seems like they've been, especially with Monk and Fox, and those guys, they've been pretty effective, Davion, really on the screen rolls when they've done it.
Jerry, Kevon Looney has just been on a different level, especially these past 3 games of this series. How can the Kings try and slow him down?
That's a great point. I think it's going to be tough because he really isn't. He's just guarding space. Basically they with the 4 floor stretchers they seem to have out there all the time. Basically defensively, he's given this Domas some 15-foot shots, which he needs to take more of. He made a couple. I mean, he can make that shot. He's a 75% free throw shooter, so he needs to take those. But I mean, with Looney, he's in such a great position offensively and defensively. He almost never leaves 5 foot from the basket. Mm-hmm. So if that, as opposed to Domas, gets caught trying to help on switches on the wings and stuff. So he's just playing a more normal game, and I'm not trying to take anything with Looney because he's playing great, but basically that's a real edge for him, and that's why I think the pick and roll keep him involved a little bit more, and maybe get him in foul trouble, and I think that would help. And now Domas is one of his biggest problems now is he's not getting assists, and most of that's because he's throwing to open 3-point shooters and they're not making them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, I've always tried to point out it's really difficult to get an assist if the guy doesn't make the shot.
Really hard.
Impossible.
Really hard.
Yeah. Now that doesn't excuse. I mean, he and Fox both are making too many turnovers, and I think that's a real key. Mm-hmm. They've got to clean that up a good bit. They've got to. They need to be at over 2-to-1 ratio assist to turnovers, and they haven't been that, and that's cost them games.
Jerry Reynolds with us. Coach, is it possible then that maybe have a more gang rebounding mentality might help the Kings to just limit Looney's effectiveness a little bit? Is that part of the approach that you might have to take in a game tonight?
It should be. Yeah. It should be. You really on the defensive board, all 5 Kings should be moving that direction. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen the Warrior guards come and get rebounds mainly because sometimes I feel sorry for poor Domas in there. He looks like the Lone Ranger getting beat on, guys flying in from all directions. And so, the guards and wings have to do a better job of themselves going to the basket. Even if they can't block out, they can get to the basket, move in the direction of the basket. That's where a long rebound's likely to come.
Jerry, I want to ask you a pretty technical question, but I heard De'Aaron talking about it at the end of the game 5. He mentioned how the Kings have really struggled to defend the roll man on the pick and roll, and once the roll man gets the ball, the Warriors get into that 2-on-1 situation at the rim, and they're so good in that kind of situation because that's the action that people kind of force them into. Is there anything that the Kings can do better in that situation, or are they just kind of at mercy? Is that just something that you have to live with when you're playing Golden State?
Well, I do think, the weak side defender can really get back in there because Looney's not really looking to score on that much. He's looking to drop it off. So, you just anticipate that be ready to play the cutter or the pass in low, and you might pick a couple off. But, it is a little unusual. I mean, and that's a credit to Looney. I mean, he is very unselfish, and he's dropping the ball off when he is covered. So in effect, the two guys that are involved are defended about as well as you can. It's the third guy who should be really more involved in the help out positions.
Jerry Reynolds with us here, Sactown Sports. As you know, Jerry, the Kings have made 56 of 106 three-pointers here. That's a 301 percentage. So is letting them fly still the best approach? Is there a point at which you have to say, look, they're not going in. We got to take the ball to the basket?
Well, I think it's tough to, change after, 87 games. I think you have to let show confidence in your shooters to shoot. Having said that, I know the only one thing I would do, and I, if I were Coach Brown, I would try to make sure that Keegan Murray gets some more shots. He's not a one-on-one guy, and he'll just take, he basically takes what's given to him, what the defense gives him. And I think, if I were the Kings, he's a guy that's making a high percentage. I'd make sure, you're allowed to actually screen his man a couple of times if you want to.
Wow.
Yeah, there's no rule. I looked in the rule book. You can do that.
Get a screen assist for that, right?
Yeah. I mean, give him some more shots. I mean, maybe he'll miss them too, but I think just the eye test tells you that, as well as percentages, that he's shooting the ball pretty comfortably right now.
Jerry, I've always wondered this, and people, obviously it's always made a big note of how much harder it is to win on the road, especially in the playoffs. What is it that really makes it so difficult to win on the road? Is it just not being comfortable in that building and obviously the noise as well, or is there something that we don't really think about?
Well, I mean, I just think the real little difference, and I think honestly, it's a lot easier to win on the road in the playoffs than it is regular season.
Really?
Because teams are more used to the buildings. You have the best officials. They're scrutinized better. Like I say, then the opposing team is always more comfortable in your building than they were like seeing it once every few months. That sort of thing. And I think that's why you see a lot of road wins during the playoffs for that very reason. Having said that, I mean, it's still an advantage. I'm not saying it's not an advantage, but it's not. I think the history would prove it's not quite the advantage that it is during the regular season. And like I said, because of some of those things, you really, the players are comfortable on the same floors. They've been there a couple of days, several games. They get comfortable with the buildings. The fans certainly are a factor, and you don't have those on your side. But I think the other thing is the referees. You have the best that the NBA has. People can question how good are they, but they're the best they have. And then and they're being scrutinized. So generally speaking, I think since 2001, 2002, they are approaching that different on certain games. Let's put it that way. I don't want to go back and get mad again all over.
Let's not do
that.
Let's not
all right, that. Coach. Thank you very much. Popcorn tonight when you're watching the game, I assume?
I'm going to wait till the second half. my strategy is I'm going to get on the treadmill through much of the first half to kind of burn up my energy. So,
Yes.
so I have some strategy going. You
Yeah.
know,
It's a veteran move.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. We're going to see some threes made tonight by the Kings. But just the thing that interests me on this series is I thought going in the Kings really had a great chance to win. They still have a chance, but I wasn't counting on Wiggins being
Right.
terrific and Peyton being very good. I was counting on those not happening, and damn them.
All right, Jerry.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Enjoy the game.
See
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah.
See ya.
Take care of the